Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good afternoon, and welcome to the session on funding opportunities in other program parts. So I'm Carla Benoja. I will be the moderator for this session. It will be a session that will be divided in two parts. So there will be the first part with our two speakers, Francesco Matucci and Marco Pantaleo, which will be focusing on the EIC challenge-based funding opportunities related to focus, of course, on climate and energy, and followed by a quick Q&A. And the second part will be with a third speaker and last speaker, Marco Pinot, and will be focused on the LIFE program, and focused and followed as well on with the Q&A session. And of course, as all the other sessions in this info days, you can use Slido to ask any question, and you can see them on the screen right now with the QR code as well as the hashtag, where you can post your question and we will be answering them at the end of each presentation. So without further ado, I will pass on the floor to two colleagues to present the EIC challenge-based funding opportunities. So over to you, Francesco and Antonio. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Antonio Marco Pantaleo, and my colleague Francesco Matteucci is program manager with me in energy and green technologies. This is the main reason why we have been invited here to present our challenge calls. They are challenge calls because they are top-down, focused on a specific area, and we focus on the topics very related to the ones of cluster 5 on energy, climate change, and some extent also links with transport. I don't know if it is possible to, should I share my video or someone will present? Okay, if you can share the slides that we have prepared. Okay, I cannot see any slide anyways in my, I just see the Carla screen and nothing else. So I cannot see the slides.
I think, Marco, we have to say next slide, I think.
Okay, only next slide, okay? So in next slide, we should see some slides, but I don't see. Francesco, do you see?
Yes,
slide?
now there is the first slide, Marco, the one with the Horizon Europe three parts.
It's probably my problem that I cannot see the slide for some reason. And yes, where is EIC? EIC is in pillar 3 of Horizon, deeply focused on innovation. That means that, as you well know, while pillar 1 is focused on excellent science, driven by Blue Sky Research and funded by European Research Center, and pillar 2 is strongly linked to the societal challenges, and in particular cluster 5 on the Green Deal and sustainability goals. We have the ambition to follow innovation in the whole innovation journey, from very low TRL project with specific calls at very low TRL up to higher TRL, supporting entrepreneurs, innovators, investors, startups, and spin-off research spin-off that want to put in practice brilliant breakthrough research. So we finance research from the very beginning with non-incremental breakthrough technologies, but with the view, the idea to push this research towards the innovation, to make this research real for the society, to help innovators to develop their business, and so with the huge ambition to transform research into business, into money, into benefits for the whole European society. Next slide. Yeah. So as you see,
See, Marco, the slides.
Yeah,
Do you
I
see, Marco, the slides?
I see very
Okay.
small slides somehow, yes, but what is holding the European innovation? Basically, the evidence that there's very strong research performance is so often not transformed and translated into real innovation, because we are very, very good in using money to undertake high quality research, but less efficient in transforming this research into money, to business. The capability to transform this breakthrough disruptive innovation into new market opportunities is the real challenge of EIC, and one of the key novelties of the Whole Horizon program, with high cross-sectoral links with all the other instruments, support instruments of Horizon Europe. We have a budget over the 7 years framework program of about 10 billion euro, which is something more than 10% of the total Horizon Europe budget. So it's not very dominant, of course, but we have a typical transversal role addressing all the scientific and deep tech fields, with the ambition to help our beneficiaries to attract further funding, to apply also for other investment and innovation programs at member state level and within Horizon Europe itself. We have different programs, as I told you, with the aim to bridge the two financing gap, the two valley debts. The first one from proof of concept to pilot, and the second one to scale up. So the transition from lab to enterprise, the first valley debt, value of that, and the second one scaling up of high-risk innovative startups. And to do so, we use an innovation ecosystem, and our role is, as also program manager, is to let our benefits, our project, to fully engage with sectoral innovation ecosystem composed by researchers, inventors, corporates, innovators, but also investment funds, and the whole community that could assist, help a project from the beginning of a brilliant idea to the real market deployment. And so we need to overcome this European paradox, which is a perceived failure of the EU countries to translate scientific advances into marketable innovation. And this is the key reason why the European Innovation Council is here, and the key mission. Next slide, please. We had the ambition so to be the one-stop shop for breakthrough deep tech market creating innovators, which is open to all innovators in any field at any time, with typical bottom-up calls. But we also have, and we will talk about this, a number of top-down specific top-down calls, and we aim to give not only money as a grant-giving agency, but smart money to help our project, not only with financial support and with grants, but also with a proactive management role and catalyzing innovation in our beneficiaries. We want to be an agile funding system from idea to investment, covering the whole innovation journey, with Pathfinder calls, which are focused on advanced research on emerging technologies, with typical budget below 4 million, from 2 to 4 million euro, transition calls that are focused on the transition of the already funded ideas project in Pathfinder or eventually in ERC proof of concept projects to facilitate their transition from lab scale and proof of concept to commercial setting with budget typical of 2.5 million. Also, these calls are both open or challenge. We will see soon the challenge calls for the transition. And we also have the accelerator program, which is the legacy of the Horizon SMI instrument, which is dedicated to small, medium enterprises to scale up innovation by startups and small, medium enterprise with blended finance, 2.5 million grants and equity up to 15 million euro. And this is also summarized. Okay, and then we have a rich building ecosystem, including communities, stakeholders, potential beneficiaries of the innovations that want to make this innovation real, and we help our beneficiaries with a whole range of services, business accelerator services, coach, mentors that help both Pathfinder Transition Accelerator projects and facilitate the interaction with corporates and investors. We as program manager have this key role to, from one side, develop vision for breakthrough innovation and writing up the proposing new challenges for the top-down calls, but also managing portfolio project where we group in thematic area that include also different topics in energy, of course, managing project included in the portfolio that we select in order to catalyze innovation within the portfolio and let project collaborate and cross-sectoral fertilize new ideas so that the sum of all the contribution for the project will be more than the single contribution. And this portfolio project is a key aspect also of the specific challenge-based calls that we are launching, in particular the one on green hydrogen we'll introduce soon. So next slide, and I already reported this difference between Pathfinder and Transition Accelerator are the three key areas where we invest at increasing technology transfer level from breakthrough research of Pathfinder to Transition to Accelerator. And we have in each of these programs both top-down and bottom-up calls. We are talking now about the top-down calls, the focused calls in Pathfinder and Transition Accelerator related to energy, but nobody hinders the potential applicants to apply also for the bottom-up calls in the energy field, of course, if they are not aligned, specifically aligned with a topic that is proposed in this work program here. Francesco, I leave you for the next slides dedicated to.
Thank you, Marco. Yes, here we are. So we start looking at the challenges, just summarizing what Marco said. So inside EIC, you will find all the funding and all the services to bring your scientific ideas, what we call the deep tech, from very low TRL up to the high TRL. We provide all the kind of support that, as Marco said, we don't want to be the typical grant giving agency, but we want to put the hands-on approach. That means working with the projects, facilitating their uptake closer to the market, so to use and really try to exploit the research. The idea here we can see, as Marco said before, that when we speak about challenge-based call inside EIC, it means that there are challenges, so there are topics that where there is a challenge and you have to make your best proposal in order to work with your challenge, with your project proposal inside the portfolio approach. What does it mean, portfolio approach? As Marco said before, it means that we will try to group the different projects within also the single call project that will be funded, but also with other projects that are already ongoing inside EIC. And we have the ambition also to work with the other calls already, when the other projects already funded. So you will see that closer to this kind of projects, you will have also inside the work program, you will have some details on the calls, but also for the first time ever inside EIC, we did also the challenge guide, in particular for the Pathfinder Challenge. That is a guide that Marco and me wrote with our colleagues, where we tried to put all the details concerning this portfolio approach to explain this new way of making the collaboration of the single projects together in the group of projects. And so inside Pathfinder, the projects will have to be low TRL. And I mean, the three characteristics will have to be that the projects will have to have a strong multidisciplinary, and the low TRL projects mean that there is also space for the development of a lot of scientific results, with the focus being us, the European Innovation Council, with the ambition to grow closer to the market and closer, with the final aim to bring your research results in the different ways that are possible to the market. If we can go to the next slide, here we see, next slide, please. Here we see, so the first challenge is in the world of the low TRL Pathfinder, and here we can see that the scope is to develop new ways of making renewable hydrogen or green hydrogen. That means hydrogen without CO2 emissions when being produced. We see that from the scientific point of view, there are no limits at the technology with which we can ask to the proposer to develop this methods of or process of production green hydrogen. So it means that the green hydrogen can be produced, as is written here, from biological, chemical, or physical routes. But there are some requirements, some common requirements on the overall proposal that we are waiting to read, and these are linked to the fact that all the projects will have to demonstrate the capability to work within the circular economy approach, so the capability to use and to transform all the byproducts in not as waste, but reusing them. The second characteristic is the avoidance of the use of the critical raw materials to use only non-critical raw materials. And the third one is to integrate the technologies inside a system, inside an energetic system, or inside, once again, a system that can use all the products that come in and out from the process. If we can go to the next slide, we can see that, as we said before, Pathfinder will start from very low TRL, so approximately 1, 2, and the final outcome will have to be a proof of concept, lab scale validated production technology. So it has to be at the level of TRL 3, so a proof of concept. And as we wrote here, strong recommendation, the idea is just to work in a multi-sectorial, multidisciplinary approach, using in particular, as I repeat what I said before, the recovery and recycling of the byproducts and the use of non-critical raw materials. If we can go to the next slide, we see what I said before, that next slide. This is the challenge guide. And so, as I said before, you can find all the details of the concepts that Marco and Mira are explaining concerning this challenge inside this document, where you will find in details all the studies, quite a detailed assessment of the state of the art and all the information that we consider relevant to write the project. And what we really ask is, for the first time, to consider the possibility not to work as an alone project, but to work in a group of projects that we call exactly this portfolio approach. If we can go to the next slide, we see that in this case, the information, the type of action is a RIA, so it is a research and innovation action. The EU contribution is up to 4 million, the funding is 100%, and the deadline for the proposal submission is the 27th of October 2021. If we go to the next slide, we can see the eligibility criteria, and we can see that you can read that in case of consortium, there is the possibility to have at least 2 independent legal entities. And in the case of a single entity that will apply, it is possible, but not if you are a mid-caps or a larger scale company. So now I come back and I give the floor to Marco to describe the EIC Transition Challenge. So if you can go to the next slide, please.
Yes. So transition challenge basically, as I explained before, is focused on transfer from lab to the market and increasing the TRL from 3-4, that could be the outcome from a Pathfinder, to about 6. Of course, it's always an indicative number, this one of the TRL. It depends on project by project. What is for sure mandatory is to have previous Pathfinder or ERC proof of concept project funded, and there is a strict, well, not that strict, but there is a window of time where you can apply for the transition. So the project should have started not less than 1 year from the deadline of the call, and be terminated no more than 1 year from the deadline, which is the 22nd of September in this year. What is the topic? The topic is on harvesting and storage technologies, focusing on different technologies for energy harvesting and storage, which combine both the collection of energy and the storage integrated as possible in specific technologies, with a focus on both heat and electricity, addressing the case of electricity, in particular the use of non-lithium batteries in the case of electricity storage and non-critical raw materials. We are focusing on both stationary and mobile applications. And we aim to capture specific system integration opportunities, both at the level of the integration of harvesting and storage. Let's think about solar energy harvesting and integrated storage in devices. It could be for both power systems at large scale, but also a small scale integrated in buildings, in residential sector, or even in mobile application. Next slide, please. We aim to focus at least on one of the following topics that we see, the 3 here, which are innovative technology and system combining energy harvesting and storage with efficient, clean and high energy density and low cost targets, in innovative concepts that include long-term thermal energy storage, interseasonal energy storage, cooling, cryogenic storage, energy storage, solutions that are building integrated for storage, technologies that include thermal electricity for direct conversion of thermal energy to electricity and storing both thermal energy or electricity, including advanced heat transfer research needed to enhance the efficiency of this integrated system, power to heat to power, or advanced materials and devices for electrochemical storage that go beyond the lithium batteries in order to reduce the environmental impact and the issue related to the lithium supply chain. So we aim also to explore solutions that can directly integrate renewable energy, intermittent renewable energy, and electricity storage, which are low cost, efficient, and in particular toxic-free, using non-critical material. Next slide, please. It is a research innovation action again, contribution up to 2.5 million euro, 100% of the cost is eligible, and deadline 22nd of September. Next slide. Again, as I explained, the beneficiary are previous beneficiary of Pathfinder or Future Managed Technologies projects or ERC proof of concept projects that are started or terminated in the specific time slot of 1 year from the deadline of the 22nd September. Next slide, please. So this is accelerator. Francesco, you want to briefly, probably a few minutes more
Yes, the introduction. Yes, we got 10 minutes in the introduction, so I go fast. Here we are in what it was called SME. Now it is called accelerator, but the main difference in the accelerator is that the startups will have to present with the 4 steps process, the evaluation of this project, and we are no more funding incremental innovation, but we are funding what we call breakthrough innovation in the deep tech side. Deep tech in this case means science-based at the conversions of technology. So here you can find the details of the 4 evaluation steps. And if we can go to the next slide, we see that the scope of this, as we said before, there are the open calls and the challenge-based calls. In this case, the peculiarity of the accelerator is that you can apply for 3 types of calls, for 3 types of funding, sorry, the grant one, the merge one, and the equity one. Why so? Because the idea is that for the first time ever, EIC and European Commission put in place a venture capitalist fund called EIC Fund. And so European Commission can go with as a silent investor inside the equity of the company. So this is a big innovation inside the accelerator call. And here we can see the topics. The topics are quite broad, the challenges inside the accelerator. We can see that the first one is linked to the fact of the big world of renewable energy, including storage and hydrogen. We can go to the next slide where we can see the other challenges, and we can see that the 3 other challenges, one is linked to the deep renovation of buildings. So all the SMEs able to bring breakthrough innovation with deep technologies inside deep renovation of buildings, low carbon industries, and battery and other storage system, including all the kind of storage system ranging from electrochemical, thermal, and other kinds of storage technologies. We can go to the next slide. So we leave the floor to the questions. We can see that expected outcome can be different. The starting point has to be what we call the prototype working in the relevant environment, so TRL6, and the final product can be developed up to the TRL8. So it can be a first scale up, so from final lab to the fab, or also the real scale up. So inside the accelerator, what we provide with these business acceleration services are all the type of coaching and mentoring to bring up to the market the technologies that where it has to go. So if we can go to the next slide, and we can see that the strong recommendations are linked to the fact that what we expect in the first phase is a strategic business plan with highlighting the quality of the team, the quality, the knowledge of the market, and all the challenges that has to be overcome in order to bring your product to the market. We can go to the next slide. We can see that the type of action is innovation and market deployment action. The contribution can be in grants up to 2.5 million, while the equity can go up to 15 million of equity. And the deadline in this case is the 6th of October. And we can go to the next slide that we end here, and we leave the floor to the questions. Thank you very much. And now, Carla, if there are questions for Marco and me.
Yes, thank you so much for the both of you for those very interesting presentations. Maybe 2 small questions from my side is, what are the synergies with the different, with other funding opportunities apart from the EIC? Is it possible to merge two of those? Or several of them? And finally, maybe what is the role of program manager? So if you can answer them quickly, and then we can move on to Marco. Thank you.
Thanks, Carla. I can reply quickly. There are so many synergies with all the other pillars of Horizon. We are engaging with ERC, organizing thematic workshop, in particular on energy storage, to facilitate the interaction between the beneficiaries of ERC early stage advanced grants and the ones of Pathfinders that are both scientists, brilliant scientists, proposing non-incremental breakthrough research and we hope to have beneficial, mutual, fruitful collaboration in these fields, thanks to exactly to the fact that there are several topics in common, several challenges and research project which a lot of commonalities. So we are exploring these collaborations in many fields of energy, hydrogen, energy storage, artificial photosynthesis, solar fuel, and so on, just to mention some of them. But we have even more probably collaboration possibilities with the missions, with mission climate. For instance, we have a number of accelerator projects focused on climate issues and abatement of CO2, and so with a high innovation content, the same for Pathfinder. So with this portfolio approach, we group and cluster project in thematic area, and from there we can see synergies, interaction with the mission, with different clusters. And we are specifically focused on cluster 5 here, but there are a lot of interaction with cluster 6 and cluster 4, and but also with member states and specific active member state. Francesco, maybe you want to quickly add something.
Yes, I try to squeeze my question in the 30 seconds. The program manager, it's a new role. The characteristics and the skills for which we are being chosen is that we should have a strong scientific background as well as an entrepreneurial background. And our role is mainly finalize the 3 final scopes. The first one is to be an EIC ambassador, as we are doing here now, trying to promote our agency, our hands-on approach within the different stakeholders that applies to our calls, and will also apply to the other ones inside European Commission and outside. So the first one is EIC ambassador. The second one is to promote this hands-on approach, to be the real manager of the process of portfolio projects, means being behind the scene, never appearing, but being able, to steer where necessary the research, and to help where necessary the innovation approach for the real exploitation, to the bringing up to the market of our startups, SMEs, or consortium. And the third one, it is also why we are here today, we are the guys in charge of proposing the challenges year by year inside work program. Marco and me are working together in the green technology. So this year, the challenges that we showed today has been developed by our team, and year by year we will be involved in doing this one. And what is important in this hands-on approach and in our program manager office is really the capability to interact openly with all the stakeholders. So all the technical, scientific, and business questions that you want, we are here. Unfortunately, we are completely ignorant of the administrative and bureaucratic part, but for the rest, we are more than happy to work with our colleagues in order to get the best proposals. So thank you very much to Carla, to Kevin, and to the organizer, and to Marco to have done this presentation with me.
Thank you, Francesco, and thank you all of you.
Thank you very much, Francesco and Marco. So now we are going to move on to your third and last speaker, Marco Pino. So welcome, Marco, who is going to talk about the LIFE projects and funding opportunities. So floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Carla. My name is Margot Pinot. I work in DG Energy in the Energy Efficiency Unit, where I'm in charge of funding opportunities, defining funding opportunities for energy efficiency and clean energy transition under different programs, including LIFE and Horizon as well. Maybe the next slide. I will present you today the LIFE program, but a little caveat before I start. The work program has not yet been adopted, and that's why I will not be able to give you much of details, as you could hear from Horizon topics and parts where the work program was adopted and the calls were published. So obviously we can go much more into the detail, while for LIFE this should happen in the upcoming days, but at this stage I can only give you the broad lines. But hopefully I will be able to give you also a better understanding how this program, this funding area will complement what is being done under Horizon and other programs. That's a little bit the objective of my presentation today. But I will start with the policy context, because to understand LIFE, you need to keep in mind that this is a policy supporting program. It is supporting the policy implementation, and specifically the part that I will be focusing on today, so the Clean Energy Transition sub-program, is focusing on the effective implementation of clean energy policies. And in the current context where the climate target for 2030 has been increased and we are scaling up the ambition, the Commission is working on the revision of the legislation, of climate legislation and energy legislation. We very much need a support program that will provide targeted funding for this new legislation and new provisions to be effectively implemented on the ground, because as you know, the directives that are mentioned here are giving only a general scope of action, and then it depends how they are effectively implemented on the ground, whether they will produce what they were intended to or not. And within this policy context, I would like to highlight the upcoming revision of Energy Efficiency Directive, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and Renewable Energy Directive, which will be part of this Fit for 55 package upcoming now in July and then later in the year. And another element of the policy context that is important for us to know is the unprecedented funding support from EU budget that is coming for the green recovery post-COVID with the Next Generation EU funds and the MFF, where we have unprecedented level of EU funding that will be channeled to the market by through the new funds and the existing funds like Recovery and Resilience Facility, like the cohesion policy funds, and all of this to produce effective investments need also some enabling conditions on the market for the market to be ready with this public support to accelerate the transition. Maybe the next slide, please. As I said, we have different funding sources for clean energy, and I would like just to situate where LIFE is located within this landscape, just to clarify for you how does it work, how we imagine this funding landscape, because indeed the EU funds alone will not do the transition. This is not enough. We need to scale up private investments, we need to move the market, and for that there are different funding tools. Of course, today we are talking about research and innovation, where the Horizon Europe program is accompanying innovation from the very early stage of basic research to the very late stage of launching on the market. As we just heard, EIC funding is really accompanying the innovation on the market. But we have other funding tools that are also complementary. I already mentioned the direct investments that will be supported by regional or national funding delivered from recovery funds, but also scaling up private investments, de-risking private investments through financial instruments and technical assistance provided by the EIB under the InvestEU umbrella. Mentioned it already, focus on research and innovation, Horizon Europe support for this. And finally, LIFE in all of this landscape is situated to create the right regulatory and market conditions for the transition to happen and to accelerate. So the next slide, maybe, please. I would like now to focus on one specific part of the LIFE program, the new LIFE program for the years 2021-2027, which is the Clean Energy Transition sub-program. This is not a new funding area, it's a continuation of market uptake actions that we were funding previously under Horizon 2020 energy efficiency calls. But these were not the typical coordination and support actions that we used to see in Horizon. And that's why at some point the Commission decided that these type of activities would be better fit under the life intervention logic than research and innovation intervention logic, because indeed we are not focusing on any specific innovation. Maybe the previous slide still, if we could go back, please. No, but okay. So we are not focusing on the specific technology or innovation to accompany to the market, but rather in a bottom-up manner, we are building the market and regulatory conditions, working with different actors, and these different actors are presented on this slide. So we are working with different governance levels through live clean energy transition, supporting public authorities at national, regional, local level to put in place the right policies and right strategies for the clean energy transition to happen and be enabled, and also removing regulatory barriers, trying to identify those, address them if possible through changes in the EU legislation, if not through the dialogue with the different governance levels, in order to enable the transition and to remove the barriers. The second area of intervention, we are working, we will be working very much with market actors, variety of actors, in order to help the technology to be rolled out, but as already said, without focusing on any specific solution or technology, but rather creating new market opportunities, new services, new business models that can absorb these new technologies or new trends that are happening in our society, and like this benefit to the clean energy transition. So taking advantage of the digitalization in order to make our energy use more efficient, or taking advantage of new technologies and new trends that appears on the market in order to transform the market operation. Also very much focusing on the skills of professionals on the market, because market actors need to work differently and they need to be accompanied to be able to take these opportunities that the clean energy transition represent for their business and their professional activity. The third area where we would focus under live clean energy transition is private financing and the financial markets. So here, working really with the financial market actors, banks, insurances, institutional investors, to define the new conditions of financing the transition, green technologies, clean energy technologies. So it's very much within the spirit of a sustainable financing framework, where the projects funded under this area will actively contribute with feedback from the market and from the financial markets. What are the possible new products, new financial products? What are the possible new framework conditions that could be developed in order to facilitate, de-risk, and accelerate massive investments in clean energy? The fourth area of intervention is working with different type of investors that we can meet at local or regional level, which can be the individual investors, even individuals, so consumers, communities, but also public investors. But we very much focus at this local or regional level, because we strongly believe that this is the level that needs to be enhanced and of which the capacity should be built for the transition to be driven by in a bottom-up manner by this local level. Because indeed the transition very much will rely on distributed renewable energy sources, energy efficiency, and this type of investments are of distributed nature and happen locally, and that's why this type of actors need to be supported in the process to pick up the investments and bring them into the scalable pipelines. Finally, we will work with consumers and citizens to make them aware about their active role in the energy transition, to make them aware about the new rights that also the EU legislation on energy provided them to be active and to become prosumers, to actively participate in the energy markets, in the energy services. But also we will very much focus on addressing vulnerability and all the, let's say, negative consequences that the transition can bring in some parts of the population, in some parts of the society. So addressing energy poverty, because indeed with the rising carbon prices, the question of fuel costs and energy costs will certainly be an important one to focus on, and to make sure that all the citizens can benefit equally from this transition. We need to make sure that indeed the benefits of the transition are properly distributed, and that we have the right answers to address energy poverty. And those answers definitely they are laying in energy efficiency, renewable energy sources that can be installed at the very distributed and consumer level. So these are the answers we would like to give with the policy and with the actions to address energy poverty. So this is the thematic scope of the sub-program Clean Energy Transition under LIFE. I would also like to mention that LIFE will not only fund the clean energy transition in this very specific and, let's say, prescriptive manner. There is also the sub-program dedicated to climate mitigation and adaptation. And climate mitigation is in somehow thematically similar as a clean energy transition, which is part of the climate mitigation. However, the climate mitigation sub-program will have a fully bottom-up approach. And that's how the complementarity with the two sub-programs will be built. While here, clean energy transition will rather be prescriptive and will look at the very specific provisions of the energy legislation that we are trying to test on the market, or we are trying to get the market feedback on through the projects that will be funded, and also to develop EU-wide best practice of effective implementation of these policies. So the next slide, please. This is actually repeating what I already said, so I will just highlight that this is a continuation of activities that we used to fund under Horizon 2020, but before they were a standalone program, Intelligent Energy Europe. It's not a new, let's say, funding area. However, it's under the new framework, which is the LIFE program. And the key objective is creating market and regulatory enabling conditions for the clean energy transition to happen and accelerate. The next slide, please. This one is just giving you a short summary where we are now with the LIFE program. So we have already the legal basis adopted, means the LIFE regulation for 2021-2027. The program is in force since 17th of May. However, we still are waiting for the adoption of multi-annual work program. So in LIFE, the work programs are not biannual as it is under Horizon, but they are of 4 years for the first one and 3 years for the second. Similarly, they will be adopted as a Commission and implementing decision. And just after this adoption, we will be publishing the calls for proposals for 2021 and putting online the LIFE Info Day sessions that we already pre-recorded, but couldn't really make it public until the work program is adopted. So we hope this will happen by mid-July indeed, and that we'll be able to move to the implementation of this program. So this is everything I wanted to present you on LIFE, and thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate.
Thank you very much, Margot, for this very comprehensive presentation of LIFE and the focus on the clean energy transition. Maybe a very short question before, because we are running out of time, unfortunately. is maybe I'm curious about how the live approach is complementary to the one that we just that was just presented before the EIC in terms of when you focus on the market uptake on innovation.
Thank you very much, Claudia, for this question. I think it's a relevant one because indeed both programs will help innovation to reach the market, but both will be doing it in different manners and I think complementary ones. The EIC, as you've heard, well, there are parts that are bottom-up, but there are parts that are quite prescriptive, where, as colleague presented, we are focusing on a given and promising technologies or solutions, innovation solutions, where we consider that it's worth creating kind of right conditions on the market and bring the investors towards these technologies. So we do not lose the opportunity and finally funding that we already located in those, and that they really truly reach the market. The LIFE program will be acting differently. It will be acting on all the elements of the market environment, so regulatory conditions, business conditions, financing, consumer awareness, education, etc. But without looking at the specific technology. But ultimately, all the clean energy technologies will benefit from these conditions that will be created on the market, we hope, and this will help them reaching the market. But under LIFE, at least clean energy transition will not focus on any specific technological solutions.
Thank you very much, Marco, for a very clear answer. So on this note, I thank everyone who has watched and maybe later on rewatch the session because it's all online, and then we'll close the session. Thank you so much. Have a great end of your day. And yes, if you are still here tomorrow, see you tomorrow for the next part of the Info Days on the Classified. Thank you.